you. It's such a pleasure to be here. I know it's a very active week. I'm sure all of you have been part of the buzz, as you know we've heard from Laura. And I think that this week really demonstrates that the power of different communities of practice coming together. I don't think I've seen in my life of working in this sector, philanthropy as well as with nonprofits, so much energy and collaboration, not only between sectors such as philanthropy and private sector and governments and NGOs, but also, between these groups. So it's such a pleasure to be part of that this week and also to be part of this panel, because I think it does demonstrate that, in order to achieve these global goals, we really do need to come together and solve these problems. So I'm probably going to echo a lot of the points that were made by previous panelists, but I think the story of the FHI Foundation and how we have an impact through our grants and through the presence of this organization that we support really does kind of put that all together in a tangible way, and I hope serve as a model for you all here that are thinking about how do I innovate, how do I have an impact. Because that, I think, is the thing that brings us all together. And to June's point, even the private sector has a heart, and they're also trying to figure out how they can have an impact. And I think these global goals really do provide us some nice guiding principles to get there together. So bold challenges require bold solutions and require bold partnerships, and to Amira's point, require bold innovations. So the FHI Foundation is actually a philanthropic arm of a nonprofit, which is an interesting and unique model. It was founded in 1990 from the proceeds of a sale of a commercial affiliate that a group called FHI at the time, now FHI 360, had created to be innovative for unrestricted funding. And today, that foundation, we really kind of see ourselves as the bridge between the nonprofit sector and the philanthropic sector, not just because we're supporting this group called FHI 360, but in how we support that group. We really are providing what we call strategic investments to utilizing the skills and expertise of this global organization that's in more than 60 countries and various practice areas to really demonstrate to the funding community what works. So we kind of serve as angel investors, if you could call it that, in philanthropy, and use that platform to take innovations to scale and hopefully bring other people along with us to take those innovations to scale. So yeah, I would say that, just to give you, I have the clicker here. I can turn my own slides, hopefully. Or not. There. So the story, a unique story of business model innovation. FHI, Family Health International, was created in 1971 to address family planning and reproductive health needs in low-resource settings. And initially, they were developing, they were doing clinical studies, they were developing products, and they were also promoting education around those needs. In the early 80s, the organization realized that, to have a bigger impact and continue doing the work that they needed to do, they needed to innovate. As funding became more restricted and more at risk because of the political environment around family planning, they realized they had to do something bold and innovative. And I think it was Laura, perhaps, so correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of really understanding what they needed to do and how to be responsive to the community in their work that they had. They also were innovative in providing a solution to the private sector, and decided to take their clinical research model and really expand that and provide that as a platform for the pharmaceutical industry. So in the mid-'80s, they partnered with the pharmaceutical industry and created a commercial affiliate called Clinical Research International. And I do have to give a shout-out to Dr. Albert Siemens, who's hiding in the back there. He's the chairman of the board of the foundation and was really part and parcel to this story. And I invite you to chat with him a little bit after if he has the time. But that organization, it was a partnership with Merck. Merck provided, they needed a partner to help them do an FDA trial for their statin drugs. Here's an organization that was doing family planning and reproductive health in Africa primarily, and now they were shifting this platform to a U.S. and European market to deal with hypertension. So it was a very unique and innovative model and adaptive, but it was a need that they were filling for the private sector. And within 4 years of creating that organization, they sold it at a pretty significant profit. And I think what's fascinating about the story even more is not the numbers, the big dollar signs attached to it, but the ingenuity and the boldness that the board had and creative mindset to say, look, this isn't enough. We want to continue expanding in these areas. We want to continue doing this work. We want to continue having these unrestricted funding sources. So they actually created a separate independent foundation to provide those sources of unrestricted funding, but it's an endowed foundation. So there's a nice symbiotic relationship between the two entities, but there's also not that temptation to draw down those resources if in times of crises. And I would say that more importantly than those financial numbers, as I stated, is really the impact that the organization has had. And again, that's why we're all here today and this week is to really have an impact. So the foundation and FHI 360 together have had a pretty significant social impact as well. I would say, going back to the original piece that I was sharing about the commercial affiliate, when FHI was a majority shareholder of that company, they were receiving dividends from the company. And those were in the form of unrestricted funds, which they used to expand their expertise in HIV and AIDS. And the timing is interesting because it was the early to late 80s. So the organization was really a pioneer in getting ahead of the game in terms of treatment, care, and prevention of HIV and AIDS, and used those resources to help them make that impact. So skipping forward a little bit, the foundation then decided they wanted to expand that treatment and that impact to low-resource settings, which is interesting at the time, and I won't go into name calling or any details there, but in the early 2000s, there was some doubt as to whether or not ARVs could be delivered effectively in low-resource settings. And there were some pretty high-level people that were questioning whether or not it could be done. But the board of the FHI Foundation said, we have the resources, we have the know-how, and we have the impetus to actually show that it can be done. And so they took $1 million and they put it into a demonstration projects in Ghana, Kenya, and Rwanda. And it was so successful, I think that it was about 6 months or so that USAID and others came and said, we want to be part of this. We really do believe in this now. And as you know today, there's more than 15 million people around the world on ARV treatment, and we like to think that we were very much a part of that story. So that is probably the biggest impact. When people question social impact and all of this, we can say that we know that it can be done, and it can be done with small amounts of funding and dedication and being strategic in how you do it. So where do we go from here? Well, just recently, I should say also that, we're here for sustainable development goals and collaboration, but it really requires integrated approaches and breaking down silos, as we like to say, and I think Amira may have brought that point up. One of the things that we have to ask ourselves as organizations is, are we doing enough? And this is something that FHI 360 asked itself in 2006, and I'm going to tell a story on Al's behalf. He's here; he can tell it much more passionately than I can. But at that time, they had all of these folks that were on ARV treatment, and it was a successful program. And they were kind of touring the sites to see the impact that they were having and meet the people that were on these programs. And Al was in the home of an Ethiopian mother that had just been receiving nevarapine, which was to prevent mother-child transmission of HIV. And successfully, her child was born HIV-free. So they were sitting in a coffee ceremony in her home, and Al said, "I would love to meet your child." And she said, "He's not here." He said, "Well, why is he not here?" She said, "Well, I'm HIV positive, and my daughter's HIV positive, and we don't have a job. I don't have an economic opportunity or an education to provide to my son. So, I had to give him away. Geez, I'm getting so sorry. Al doesn't cry when he tells the story. So Al said, this is ridiculous. We're promoting health of people, but we need to be doing more. We need to promote their education and meet their economic needs, their livelihoods. So they had the vision of we need to be more holistic in our approach to healthcare. And with that vision, and also again with the help of the foundation, they were able to expand their areas of practice into education, economic development, and livelihoods. And that was through the acquisition of an organization called Academy of Educational Development, hence FHI 360, because now it takes a 360 approach to development. So that gets me to the second impact that we're really having now, and this is current. Through that integrated approach to the development, the FHI Foundation has also provided strategic investments of around $8 million to really see what works in integration, why do we need to do it, how can we be doing it better, and what is the impact that we can have by being more collaborative and integrated in our approaches. And recently, we have been the organization has taken those funds, those strategic investments, and started working in northeast Nigeria, in Borno State, where there are thousands of internally displaced people in Nigeria. It's a pretty intense crisis, and those people will probably be in these camps for a very long time. So FHI 360 is taking an integrated, long-term approach to crisis response and mitigation, and they're providing water and sanitation services to communities, as well as sexual and reproductive health, and trying to deter and prevent sexual violence in those camps, and also looking to build education opportunities and curriculum for the children that are in those camps. So today, this was just an initiative that was really started earlier this year, but I believe it's somewhere around 46,000 individuals that they're now helping to have water and sanitation, and have really seen a drop in the incidence of cholera in the communities they're working in. So that's, to be continued. We'll see what else happens from this program, but that's impact that's happening today as we speak. And then finally, to kind of tie it back around, the stimulating new ideas and innovations. We know we have to be innovative. We know we have to be bold. And I think Amira really set that stage for me quite nicely of how do we as organizations promote innovation. And again, FHI 360 is lucky enough to have a foundation that helps them do this. We have a Catalyst Fund where we provide annual grants of $500,000 to the top 5 ideas that come through the organization. And it's really promoting collaboration across south-to-south collaboration as well as south-to-north collaboration to really find out what are those new things in development that we could be using to help address the challenges in our communities. That's still a newer program. It's been around for 3 years, so I don't have a huge impact story to share with you. But that's kind of where the organization is heading, and we're hoping to really utilize all of our assets to help make that happen. And also looking more of how do we partner externally around those innovations. So it's not just FHI 360 promoting innovations, but we're really encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship in the communities where we work in. So finally, to wrap it up, and you've seen this slide before, you'll see it again, and I probably won't be the last to show it to you. These are the global goals that we're all working towards, whether you are an individual or you are part of a nonprofit organization, or you are a member of government, or you are part of a corporation or a consulting firm. We are all working together to achieve these goals, and I think that, it really does require innovative solutions, being mindful of the impact that we're trying to have, knowing the partners that we want to work with and for, and what we can do together, not only for our own causes, but also for the causes they're trying to solve. So thank you again. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope it does serve as an interesting model to you all of how you can also be more innovative and effective in the work that you're doing. So thank you.